What are some specific soft skills that are critical in today's tech environment?
Whether you're a beauty therapist or you work behind a checkout or you're designing solutions, softer skills, no matter what industry you're in, are important.
How has developing your skills that you talk about specifically impacted the success of your career and your career's growth?
I think I certainly experienced the fact that my career only got to a certain point until I.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Power Talks. My name is Griffin, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and today I'm joined by special guest Craig White. Now, Craig, what is going on, man? I wanted to ask you right away, what are some specific soft skills? Let me say that again. What are some specific soft skills that you feel like are critical in today's tech environment?
It's a absolutely great question. Actually, like soft skills in general, I think is a really important topic that perhaps needs to get a bit more light. So it's great to come on a podcast this and actually talk about the non-technical aspects of solution design, software delivery, whatever else. I think softer skills, no matter what industry you're in, whether you're a beauty therapist or you work behind a checkout or you're designing solutions, I think they're so important. I actually try to take it back before I answer your question to I in my mid-20s, about 15 years ago, I started a new role, and there was a new head of department that started at the same time, and we went out for a beer because we lived in the same neighbourhood. So it's like, hey, let's meet up at the weekend, let's get to know each other, and we supported the same football team. But at the time, I was a developer. I built a lot of stuff with SQL Server at that point in time, and he was digging around as to what my career aspirations were, and I'd like to carry on building stuff for the tech, but I want to kind of raise up the ladder. And he was the one who said to me at the time, if you want to start looking at, getting up the ladder in terms of your career, you need to start working on your soft skills. And that's the first time I kind of heard that phrase. And obviously over the years, I shadowed him and other people understanding and learning those sort of softer skills, if you like. And actually, we see softer skills, I think they're essential skills now, especially in consultancy. So yeah, I've been a big advocate and a big focus of that in the last sort of 15 years or so. Try to obviously keep in touch with the tech, obviously. But as an architect and aspiring sort of leader of people and teams, actually those softer skills are quite important. So kind of swing back around to kind of answering your question. My top ones. Wow. I mean, communication, I think it's got to be one, right? We work in such a fast-paced technology circle that things are changing rapidly. We've got to communicate well in terms of the changes that are coming down the pipe. We've got to help our customers navigate those changes. We've got to try and help non-technical people understand technical aspects. We've got to help cajole the team and work with cross-functioning across different areas of businesses. And as consultancy, you're actually working with other businesses, multiple businesses at a time on different projects. So communication is key, I'd say. Problem solving, I think that's going to be quite a key aspect. Yes, we can all build an app, we can all build a flow, but if you put a specific scenario in front of people, how well can you break it down? How well can you articulate difficult scenarios and subjects to that sort of non-technical audience, if you like? Adaptability, I think it's got to be one. Weirdly enough, I kind of thought that from being a parent. Weirdly, we had all these great ideas when my daughter, before my daughter was born. My wife wanted to do X and Y and Z, and then when those sort of things didn't transpire, we found it quite difficult to adjust because you have it in your head. It's like, well, actually, I wanted to do this. So we've actually learned, and my daughter's 9 now, but parenting, you have to be adaptable because things change at such a rapid rate, right? And kids are, when they're really small, they can't talk to us. They just have little cues, and when you get used to a routine, you've got to change it. You've got to be adaptable, and I think that's the same, a really important soft skill in certainly today's world. Obviously, with AI and Copilot now being really huge, we're adapting more than ever now to the changes across lots of different sectors, how they're going to impact us, our colleagues, our families. Adaptability is always a really important one for me. One of my highest ones, emotional intelligence. I think that's probably one of the most important soft skills. I think that I don't say I have and I'm really good at it, but I think it's an important facet, that empathy, that understanding people on an emotional level, understanding what makes them tick, what their struggles are, why are they coming to you looking for answers, what's their real bugbears. and also managing your own emotions as well. I think that's really important as, high performing people in the technical industry. Sometimes we're going to be challenged. Sometimes people won't like what we say. Sometimes we have to have difficult conversations with our colleagues or with customers and still keep our own emotions in check without kind of, overstepping any boundaries. So, yeah, communication, adaptability, problem solving, um, emotional intelligence. I think those are probably my top four. How many was that? That was four, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Count it this late on a Friday, but I probably would guess you could wrap in there like collaboration. Probably part of that as well with the communication side of things. And I think for some of us that have been in the game a little bit longer, maybe leadership is quite an important, softer skill, if you like. Again, that's quite a critical skill. Every team needs a leader, whether that's not necessarily, signing off people's annual leave forms or, doing return to work when they've been off sick for a couple of days. I'm talking more around, leading by example, like getting stuck in, leading from the front, being positive, even though you're getting controlling your own emotions, I suppose, as well. Even when you're on a bit of a rubbish project with a difficult client, you've still got to kind of, lead and cajole the team, get things going, remain positive, and that's sometimes quite a difficult skill. Something I've taken a long time to learn as well, I think. I used to be quite negative and openly negative, so I'd bring my team down with me, and actually that might impact on productivity, right? So over the years, that's one of the things I've really tried to harness and learn is to kind of just try and remain positive on projects, trying to keep a good upbeat feel around the place, morale, and I think that's quite an important quality to have as well. So yeah, that's quite a few. Hopefully
Yeah.
that's kind of a good place to start, right? But I think those are some of the stuff that I've certainly tried to work on in the sort of like last 5-10 years, and I've still got a lot of work to do. Of course, I have, but yeah, it just goes to show like how much more there is for us to develop. It's not always just about the tech and can we build a flow, can we build an agent, can we put a table together, can we do all these other things that a kind of a modern day consultant is probably looking to achieve. It's a lot of these softer skills as well, right?
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and wrap up the episode there. That was phenomenal. No, I'm just I'm just kidding. No, that's awesome. I wanna ask a follow up question, and then I'll I guess explain like where my question's coming from. So, how has developing your skills that you talk about specifically impacted the success of your career and your career's growth? And where kind of my question is coming from is like you're mentioning how like the soft skills are what's really important to actually grow your career, and that you know the technical skills, or the how to build a flow or how to write a line of code, all those things can generally be learned, and it's harder to learn the soft skills, or to make
Agree.
the soft skills are what make you more valuable as a person, an
Agree.
employee, a
Yeah.
coworker.
Full on.
um and so as you kind of say like climb the proverbial ladder right through your career, a lot of times your role will get progressively less technical and more
Mm-hmm.
reliant on your soft skills. And we were kind of just briefly talking about this before we um, started recording, but like kind of understanding all of that, what is your stance on that, your viewpoint? How do you interpret all that, and what would you say to that?
I agree with it. I think I certainly experienced the fact that my career only got to a certain point until I started developing those softer skills. I was technically very good for what I did at the time, but I was hitting that wall of taking that next step. And I think that's important because the higher up you go, the more conversations you've got to have with a wider variety of people. So you sort of, with the greatest respect, when you're a junior developer or developer, chances are you might be talking to like a similar peer with a customer side and an architect, let's say in our industry, right? But if you're an architect or a bit higher, actually you're talking to your team of developers, you're talking to project managers, you're looking around budgets, you're talking to CTOs, you're talking to COOs. Your audience is much wider and much greater. And you have to know when to kind of switch your tones and types of languages to kind of get messages across. Like if I'm talking to some developers, I'll be talking about the technical benefits of the solution. Oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could streamline this. This would be really cool if we could do that. But if I go to a COO, I'm not going to tell him, oh yeah, if I write this patch function, it's going to save you, X amount of time. They might be more interested in risk mitigation or, financial benefits or whatever it is. That the language is different, and I think it's important to understand that the further you go up, harnessing those softer skills and understanding what discussions you have and how at different levels, then sort of comes into its own. I think that's that tipping point. Um, so yeah, it's hugely helped me. I mean, am I perfect at those discussions now? No, but I feel like I'm better equipped to have them because I've worked on some of those softer skills and because I've surrounded myself with what I'd say is good mentors or people that challenge me that have those softer skills. So I've been able to observe how they've interacted with different varieties of people across different areas of businesses and like taking elements of their approaches to kind of improve my softer skills at those higher levels, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I recently heard this statistic, and I don't remember where exactly I heard it, and I don't know where they got it from. So if anyone's fact checking me, you can't, because I don't know. But I heard somebody was saying that it's believed that like the children being born now, when they're adults, 66% of them will have a job that doesn't currently exist right now. And like just how fast everything is, with technology, right, is going to continue to change, and the jobs that are going to go away and that are going to be created, that it I think it draws even more importance to this point of like, how to 30 years from now, how you build a Power Automate flow will probably be completely obsolete, right? It is not
Oh, yeah,
like getting really good at the skill of working in Power Automate 10 years from now likely could
yeah,
be obsolete,
yeah.
And so it's
Oh,
like now at the same time we are working today, we're not working in 30 years, so we need to, be like, have these skills now, but really focusing on sharpening those soft skills, because that is what, like that's gonna what stands the test of time, I think is
they're
what I'm trying to say.
transferable,
So
aren't they? Like, and I'll take the example of my wife, completely different industry. So my wife's a beauty therapist, as some listeners may well know. Um, she's been a beauty therapist for many years. She used to work in a high-end spa close to where I live in the UK. And then she kind of, when our daughter was born, she changed industry just for better hours because, the beauty industry isn't friendly hours. You've got to work weekends, late nights, and so on and so forth, right? So she swapped over to just working for like an estate agent or real estate, I guess, for yourself. Um, and she was really nervous. It's like, well, actually, if you think about it, both jobs rely on customer service. You're dealing with customers and you're trying to provide a service. And I love watching my wife because I used to use the gym that she worked at, and her customer service is amazing. Even when she felt absolutely wrapped, a bad night's sleep, she'd always greet everyone with a smile. She had a spring in her step. She gave everyone the same level of service, regardless of how horrible they were or nice they were. And it's just a pure testament of, you know what, like if you're a beauty therapist, you can only work in the beauty industry. But if you've got the softer skills and you're good with people, you can transfer those to any industry. And you could probably get yourself a relatively decent way into that company because of the way you are and because of the way you interact with people. And I completely agree with you. Like building a flow, yeah, that's going to be redundant in a few years' time, especially a co-pilot or whatever. We could just put in a prompt. We'll probably be able to speak it soon. Go, yeah, co-pilot, build me a flow that does this. I don't need to know those skills as a developer, but I need to know how to talk to an agent. Sorry, how to talk to how to prompt. And even with talk now, like when you're prompting, be nice, be friendly, be courteous, and all that's kind of part of the softer skills and how do we talk to people. Yeah, transferable skills. That's actually weirdly what I worry about for my daughter because they don't have as much interaction face to face as what we did as kids. So a lot of their interactions is over speakers, like whilst they're playing Roblox. So actually, are they going to pick up those softer skills when they're interacting with people from other parts of the world? And if they don't score the right number of points, they're going to get a nasty message. We never had that kind of stuff as kids. So maybe even though sort of starting to understand how people interact with each other, maybe there might be a little bit of a disadvantage because a lot more of their entertainment now is in front of a screen and kind of remote. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Um,
that
I'll be
that does
interested to
make
see what
sense.
my daughter's like in 10, 20 years' time and how that's impacted her career, positively or negatively. Who knows, right?
Yeah. No, that does make sense. And I guess I've never thought about that. How there's like a divide and that soft
Yeah.
skills are going to be even more important, but that generation that feels like is growing up right now is not developing them, like in
But
just
they
how
are
remotely they
developing
work.
the technical skills way quicker than we did because we didn't have iPads. Well, I didn't anyway. I'm in my
Sure,
40s.
I
So,
did not.
when
Yeah,
I was a kid, we didn't even have mobile phones or laptops, right? TVs had like 4 channels in the UK. Whereas, like, my daughter mastered how to use a Fire Stick when she was 4. Like, she was doing things on a Fire Stick at home that I didn't even know existed. Like, she could navigate around an iPad a lot quicker than what I did. It took me a little bit longer to kind of get used to those sort of things. So, I guess there's pros and cons. Maybe in this era of AI and how easy technology is becoming to build and to use, maybe they'll be an advantage compared to us because we've had to take longer to learn these things. Where they're just sort of born into technology, it just becomes part of their everyday life. It only became part of our everyday lives 10, 20, 30 years after we were born, right? So maybe it's pros and cons. It'll be interesting to see in a few years, right?
hey, if you are finding this video impactful or insightful, be sure to like and subscribe. But more importantly, if you are wanting to learn more about the Microsoft Power Platform, then you are going to want to check out the completely free self-paced course that has all of the hand-picked content directly from me as the first link down in the description down below. This is going to teach you everything you need to know about the Power Platform to get started and pass your first few Microsoft certifications. I can honestly say that as a Power Platform consultant myself that I love what I do, and I don't think many people in today's day and age can say that. If you are wanting to learn more, as I mentioned, be sure to check out the first link in the description down below to get in direct contact and connect with me. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Man, that's super interesting. I kind of just in the same vein of soft skill career development, as you're climbing up, you're an Power Platform ecosystem architect. I
Correct. Do I need to explain to you what one of those is?
Yes, I wanted to ask you kind
Cool,
of
man.
what does that mean? How is this different from a traditional solution architect?
Banging. Cool. It's a question I regularly get, and it's a question I love to answer to kind of like just evangelize a bit more about what one is. So as you well know, a solution architect is, I think very well known term. You architect solutions, right? A customer needs an app or a flow or whatever built, you go and help to build it, and you deliver it. Hey presto, wonderful. The world is happy. We all celebrate with cake and beer. Ecosystem architecture for the Power Platform is slightly differently. So I don't really build much these days. What we're trying to do with the Power Platform is rather than taking one business problem and building one solution to solve that one problem, my role is to try and help organisations solve problems themselves by having the tools and infrastructure and the people and the empowerment to go and build those solutions themselves. To do that, we try to look at their ecosystem, their architecture, to say, well, actually, do you have the right governance in place to run Power Platform at scale? Have you got the right support network? Have you got an IT support desk? How do you triage and manage Power Platform requests for licenses or for a new environment? Have you got data loss prevention in place? What's your application lifecycle management like? Who are your support teams to deploy solutions? And actually just sort of delving into an organisation's operating systems, if you like, and the way they do things, and is that built to make the Power Platform successful in their own organisation? So we actually kind of go in and we work with a lot of customers to say, okay, well, a lot of it's centered around the COE starter kit, so we might put that into place just to get some data to understand what's going on, and we'll then work through like building a series of strategies that we can then deploy with a customer to say, right, okay, if you want to adopt Power Platform at scale, okay, you need this number of environments, and we need to make sure these connectors are allowed over here, and we need to go and block all these nasty connectors over here. We need to think about improving your support network. Do we need some templates in your ticket system so people can request things easily? Do we need to think about, adding some stuff on a SharePoint hub to start evangelizing about the Power Platform, success stories, where people can go to find latest materials and stuff like that. So we're just trying to look at that whole architecture of environments, DLP, security, another thing, where they're storing the data. Is it SharePoint? Is it Dataverse? That age-old chestnut, right? And we just have to try and delve down and give them a good architecture to then embrace Power Platform moving forward. And that's expanded a little bit more now, I think, with Copilot as well, in terms of, okay, if people are using SharePoint to support the Power Platform, Copilot can access that data, and how do we manage that? And there's a whole heap of governance in and around that as well. So we're going to start probably looking at doing like ecosystem architecture for Copilot, and how it all kind of like hinges together, right? Dataverse, Fabric, Azure, SharePoint, Copilot, it's all going to talk to each other. It's already talking to each other. So rather than building stuff ourselves, how do we get organisations ready to go and build all that stuff for themselves, but making sure they're doing it safely, and not putting themselves or their users at risk? And that's a lot of what I do, man. So, and that is a lot of face-to-face interaction, talking to people, understanding their troubles, the things that really annoy them, the blockers in their organisations, and how we can kind of like alleviate, how we can put things in play. But ultimately, they're the ones clicking the buttons and putting those things into practice. So a lot of my job is just, yeah, that engagement and that empathetic side, that emotional intelligence to kind of help other organisations get the best of the tools that they're paying for, right? But it's
Sure.
good fun. We enjoy it, man. It's good fun.
Yeah. What are some of the common pitfalls? And this could probably be like a, you have infinite amount of stories here, infinite amount of things. But like, what are some of the like super common things that you see you're often either correcting or problems that businesses have?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you well know, the Power Platform has been around for what, eight, 9 years now. I think 2016. I think I want to say. So obviously, we have this thing called the default environment, right, where everyone's got access to. Anyone can go and build some stuff, and that could be happening right now without your organisation knowing about it. Even if you think you've not rolled the Power Platform out, chances are there's people playing and they're building, and most people are doing some really good stuff, right? They just want to kind of improve the way they work because their processes are slow and turgid. And hey, great, we want people to go and innovate themselves. I think that's wicked. But we do see a lot of either intentional or unintentional misuse of some of the functionality. For example, people building Power Automate Flow to take a document from their company SharePoint site and make a copy of it in their personal Google Drive. That's an exfiltration of data. Is that allowed? Do we have a relationship with Google to share that data? Is that someone being a little bit crafty and taking data out of their own tenant that they shouldn't be doing? I do see quite a lot of that. I've seen some quite mental HTTP requests to adult content done from Power Automate flows inside of a customer tenant recently. So it can be really kind of nut stuff. It's just general misuse, and I think some of that becomes education. If you don't fully know how to use something, you might use it incorrectly, knowingly or otherwise. And that's again part of that ecosystem architecture job, is to kind of like help people use these things safely and give them that education so they can go and do stuff, but do it without kind of giving problems. So a lot of it is around the use in default environment. We can see that spiral out of control. So a lot of that is around cleaning it up and making sure people are using, good connectors that are going to invite minimal risk to their organisation. So we do quite a lot of work with trying to fix retrospectively 7-8 years worth of activity to try and modernise it and making sure it's at a good standard, if that makes sense. And some of that isn't like 5-minute work. Some of that can take several months to kind of get all that sort of stuff addressed. But you'd expect that when you've got so many years worth of stuff to clear up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super cool. It's interesting. I don't necessarily think about like, I don't know. I guess it depends on the size of the project, but a lot of the times I can be kind of in my own little bubble and I'm thinking about this lead to opportunity process within
Yeah,
Microsoft Dynamics Sales, and it's like this is what I eat, sleeping, and breathing. But then the
yeah,
architect is having to think about the entire sales app, and then say we have like an enterprise level architect that's thinking about all the CRM apps and all the ERP apps and all the performance considerations, and so it kind of just as you go up, right? It just like the considerations and things are very different. I think that's really cool. How say final question here on this. Say I'm a consultant and I want to take the next step in like thinking like an architect, or I'm a solution architect and I want to start thinking like an ecosystem or like an enterprise architect. Like what does that kind of look like? How do you practice that?
wow. I don't know. I don't know how to actually practice that.
Maybe let me because
I
this is
think
a
I fell
question that's on
into
the
it a little
spot.
bit by mistake to some extent because I used to do a lot of the Power Platform administrative work in a previous organisation, and I kind of vibe with it. There's not many people that vibe with Power Platform administration, to be fair. It's what's considered the boring stuff. I find it quite fun, and I did it in a previous organisation. I just vibe with it. So when the opportunity came in my current organisation to go and help other people do the administrative side, I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. That's wicked. I didn't necessarily mean I deliberately pivoted or changed the thought process per se. It was just an additional string to my bow, I guess, that I already had. So what I probably therefore say to, and what I say to my current consultants is, if you're looking at becoming an architect or moving on, whatever, don't just think about that sort of one solution in a box of like, okay, I've got to build two model-driven apps, a couple of tables, and a partridge in a pear tree. You've got to think of like the infrastructure across a whole business. So, for example, a very, very simple example, Power Platform data loss prevention policies. So if I said to you, right, Griffin, I need you to build a solution. It's got to take data from Dataverse, and it's got to post to Teams, and then it's got to go and call a custom API that goes and does X, Y, and Z. You might start thinking about, okay, I need authentication from a custom connector. Oh, it's going to be JSON. I need to do this. I need to do that. And that's cool because you're solutionizing. But actually, the questions you might want to ask first might be around what environment are we building in? How many environments do we have? What's the security we have? Is there any data loss prevention policies that are active in your organisation that are going to stop custom connectors from working? And just start to think about like that sort of wider picture of, okay, how is the business operating? What other things are going to be in place that I might need to navigate around, or might be a blocker that I need to kind of unblock in some way, shape, or form? And that again is where you're coming into your softer skills as an architect to say, okay, we've got an issue that's kind of blocking the project. How can we help resolve it? How can we move it on? What's the workaround? So just kind of like thinking bigger picture, I think, is probably my advice to kind of budding consultants. Is like there's so many kind of nuts and bolts to the Power Platform, but there are elements you can just kind of ask the right questions to kind of help your solution get built in the right way as quickly as possible and provide us value as quickly as possible as well, right?
Yeah, because I think we make, like you're saying, you're that architect and you want to start solutioning. You're kind of making a lot of assumptions on things like the
Yeah,
environment, the data loss prevention policies,
yeah,
the security, and I guess an example for that feels relevant to me is like, especially when I was first starting, and say I got a task to go and build a couple of tables and some fields and some forms, whatever. It gets to kind of unit testing or QA testing. There was no chance I updated the security roles to include security to my custom tables. Not a shot, Like I just don't think about it. I'm like, okay, I'm
mate.
building my
You
tables.
built what you've been
But
tasked to build, right? Yeah,
exactly. But
yeah,
now I feel like I've, gained a little bit of experience, and now that's not like an assumption, that I guess I have on something I'm building, right? Like,
yeah. And I think it's like you take that. I think also architecture to some extent just comes down to experience. Because let's say you're an architect now, or you're playing that role in a project, and you've got a junior consultant with you. Like you can take that, not mistake, a learning that you've had, and like pass it on to others to say, well, actually, right, I know we've got this really cool solution to build, but what I always try to do is start with the data and the user requirements. Okay, what do we actually want? What's the value? Then let's look at the data layer, and when we're looking at the data, we need to look at who needs access to that data, and are they creating records? Are they read only? Can they see this column but not that column? Get those bits right first, and then go and do all the fun stuff like build automations and apps, and just trying to like have a good framework that you've probably learned from experience to say, right, actually, if I'd have just taken a step back, thought about my tables, thought about the user personas and who needs access to what data at what times, actually you may have done those security roles up front. So when you came to do your solution and your, application lifecycle management deployments, actually you wouldn't have missed that off because you'd have kind of got that at source. It's just that experience sometimes that you can articulate, and that too, I think, is good for solution and ecosystem architecture. It's experience. Like take your learnings and learn from them, and help other people learn. Like I always say, like I make the mistake so you don't have to. That's the deal, right?
yeah. This okay. This is a perfect transition. So you're talking about sharing what you're learning. I
Yeah.
also really just wanted to ask you. I mean, you're a Microsoft MVP and you have a blog,
Yes,
and
I
I
do.
know, right? You I don't know now as of how recent it was, but I guess a few months ago you had gotten an award for your outstanding blog. And
Yes.
I'm not being
Last month,
sarcastic.
actually, as yeah, October, mid-October, at a UK Community Award. So yeah, very privileged and very lucky to have received
Wonderful.
that.
Yeah, well, congrats first
Thank
off.
you very
But I
much.
kind of wanted to ask you, share a little bit about being an MVP, a blogger, and maybe my first question is kind of what inspired you to start this blog and how that's also impacted your career.
Yeah, wicked. What inspired me first and foremost is actually using blogs 10, 15 years ago to resolve problems that I had. So at the time, I was leading on like upgrading stuff from Access into SQL and upgrading a SharePoint 2010 on-premise instance to 2013. Which, if you're old enough, you'll probably remember the joys of SharePoint on-premise. So that's all I'll say. And there were some things, really tricky things with SharePoint 2010 to 2013 that needed knowledge beyond what I had. I was learning on the job, and there was a whole bunch of things that I didn't know, and I would just use the internet and I'd Google it, and I'd find people that had spent time writing things down. This was kind of before YouTube, or before YouTube was big anyway. Like people have written stuff down and go, oh, if you've got this problem, click here, do this, run this bit of code and do that. I was like, ah, cool. How amazing is that? People have not only found an answer to a problem, but they've then put it on the internet for anyone to find. I thought the whole concept of that was like, hey, that's wicked. I'd love to do that. And so for like over, yeah, a good sort of 10, 15 years, I've carried this sort of, wouldn't it be cool to start a blog? Wouldn't it be wicked to start a blog? Because I've been using the Power Platform since 2016, and I come across a lot of people that have been using it for a couple of years. Of course, they know things that I don't because they might be a bit more hands on than I am these days. But by the same point, like, I'm sure I must have come across challenges that other people have had that they can learn from what I've done. So maybe I can be to them what those other bloggers have been to me over the last sort of 10, 15 years, right? Um, so it's always been like a dream of mine to kind of just start my own blog and see where it would go. Um, I actually started it in 2022. I drafted one post and then I didn't do anything after that. I think largely like I've got like an ADHD um, neurodiverse sort of assessment done. And I kind of understand about how much I hyper focus, and if I'm not into something, I won't do it. So when I originally started it in 2022, I wasn't in the right place up here to do it. So just like it just went very quickly. But a year later, I was just like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it now. And I was just testing myself. It's kind of like, let's see how long I can do this for. And yeah, like 18 months later, I haven't blogged for a couple of weeks actually. I came back from that award ceremony, the trophies just up there. I went on holiday for 2 weeks, and now my wife and I are looking to move house. So I haven't actually time to open up my blog in the last month, and it's kind of like annoying because I really enjoy it. Um, but I really love my blog, and it's great that the feedback I've had in the last 18 months, it's helped other people, which is really cool. It's my little safe bubble where I'm not husband, I'm not daddy, I'm just me, and it's my thing, and I'm just really enjoying giving back after I've sort of taken from other people and helped my career. You know, the knowledge that I've taken from other people's blogs that have helped me to build solutions for customers, take a blog, enhance it with my own little quirks, and then share that with other people. Yeah, it's been fun, and of course, people's content helped me to get to where I've got to. Because otherwise, I couldn't have built the things I've done. I couldn't have engaged with the people that I've engaged with to have got the opportunities because it's all part of knowledge, right? So it's my turn to write what I know down, and if that helps one person, hey, that's good. Someone told me that when I started my blog. Lewis Baber, who you may know, or other people do as well, um, is a great dude. And when I was looking to start my blog, he's got an amazing blog. He was the one who gave me a lot of good advice, and that was one of the things he said is like, you know what, 10,000 people can read your blog. If one person takes something from it and learns from it, you've done your job. And that's what kind of keeps you going blogging because that's the fun part, right? The knowing that someone else has helped from your learning, right? It's good. It's good fun.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. I wanted to ask you as well, like how do you I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with how many blog posts have you done in those, I guess, so far? Like,
How many have I done?
what was your cadence for those like 18 months where you were
Ooh.
really doing it?
Well, for a year, the first year I did one a week,
One a week? Okay.
and that was cool. So I got a bit of a lump in my throat. So if I have to put myself on mute and cough, then
Okay.
please excuse me. Then I went down to, I think, I spoke at a conference this summer in June. And then when I came back from there, I decided to go to once every 2 weeks, just to kind of think about quality rather than quantity. Not to say that my earlier posts were, a load of rubbish. They weren't, and obviously they're helping people, which is great. I just think just trying to find a better balance for me. My original goal was, can I do it for a year once a week? And I did that, and it was good fun. Um, then for 6 months, it was once the other week. Now I'm sort of taking a break until Christmas because I just want to do some learning and just sort of, just chill for a bit. And then maybe like in the new year, I think I'll probably end up again doing something like one every couple of weeks. Um,
Yeah.
that's a good balance.
So how do you, especially during that year where you were doing a ton, like how do you balance, working full time, being a husband, being a dad, having Lego hobbies and blogging, like what does that kind of look like? What's your process in case anyone's listening and they also think that they might want to start a blog? Like
Yeah,
how do you do it?
it's a great question. When I get asked a lot because it does take a lot of time. I think people underestimate how long it takes to do a podcast or a video or a blog. It's not just the bit you see, it's all the editing, it's the scheduling. It's, for a blog, it's no different. You've got to write, you've got to research, you've got to crop images, all kinds of stuff. So it does take some time. Um, I'm very lucky that I've got a very supportive wife. I think it's quite easy because I've supported her to go self employed. So I kind of feel like, well, you know what? Like, you can support me to do my thing, right? We've got a good relationship here, which is great. So my wife, even before COVID, was like, I work full time. I'm the breadwinner. You take Sundays off. And it took me a long time to actually take Sundays off because I just felt guilty all the time. But now I'm like, yeah, my Sundays are my thing now. Like, if my Sunday gets interrupted, I go the other way. I get really angry. No, I don't. But it's just like, it's my routine. So Sundays, I'll just sit down. I'll be in here, drafting a blog, researching, playing around with stuff, building apps, doing whatever. So I've got some dedicated time where I can do that. And I might kind of hop on like in an hour, once or twice a week in the evenings when the little one's gone to bed, like this evening, where I can just sort of play around, scribe, do stuff. So I'm quite lucky that I got the time. I think it also helps my daughter's a little bit more independent now. I think I would struggle just a lot more if she was like in like 0, 2, 3, 4 years old again because she needed parenting more, if that makes sense. And you know, it's a little bit easy to take a few hours out of a Sunday just to write a blog post. So
Yeah.
I think I've got a good balance. It's nice that I got the support to do that. My advice would be for anyone wants to do it is to, if you want to do it, make sure you do have the time to kind of put into your passion. Time is important, um, and don't underestimate how much it's work. It's not work because I enjoy doing it. How much effort is involved, maybe, is a better way of saying it. If you want to do a blog or a vlog or a podcast, actually do your research into what's involved and make sure it's right for you because these things are time consuming. It's great to share content with people, but we all do this for free in our own time, and some people might rather just pick up the PlayStation and do that instead, and that's totally cool, right? So it's got to be right for you. That's it.
Sure. Yeah. So with that being said, if you're still listening, like and subscribe because this took me time. All right,
Yeah, full
to
on.
get Craig
And
on
like and
here
subscribe to
and
my blog as well, actually.
exactly. Yes, there will be a link. There will be a
Click
link.
all
You
the
better go
buttons.
check it out. Yeah. Come on now. All right. Listen up. No, I completely agree that a lot of times, and I agree with everything you said, specifically that it does often take a little bit more time than you think, especially
Yeah.
at the beginning. Like like I can remember when I first started making these conversations or podcasts or whatever you want to call them, like they were probably taking me from scheduling to the actual recording to editing to thumbnail to writing a description to writing a LinkedIn post to like all that stuff was taking me 5-6 hours and like
Yeah, man.
each, and it's
Yeah.
like okay, that's an hour a day, every
Yeah.
day and no days off, whatever. So, but that was taking me a lot of time. I've shrunk that down to probably about half of that, which has been huge for me because, it makes it just way more manageable because the easier you can make it for you to create whatever that looks like, blog, video, LinkedIn post, whatever. As many barriers you can get rid of, as easy as you can make that, then the more you're simply going to do it. Like if every time
100%.
I had to set all this stuff up and do this and to do that or drive somewhere or whatever, then I would do it less. But I kind of just keep the setup. I just got to turn the lights on and
There
hit
you go,
record,
dude.
and
You
it's
learn
just,
on the job. Like I was just
yeah,
saying, my first blog post took ages, and I've just got my own ways of working that might not work for someone else. Like there are bits of advice I couldn't give you because I just got my own quirky ways of working, but they work for me. The overriding factor for anything, enjoy it.
yeah,
Because if you don't enjoy doing your content in whatever medium, there's no point in forcing it. Like if you were to wake up, you turn those things on and go, "Oh, I've got to do another podcast tonight. Like, I can't be bothered. I've had enough of this." Don't force yourself. Don't do it. Like no one's forcing you.
yeah,
I'm kind of the same. It's like if I don't want to blog, I'm not going to blog. I will get to it at some point, and I do enjoy it, but I have to balance other things. And if I stop enjoying it, I'll look to contribute to communities in other ways. Like maybe I might see if I can talk a bit more at conferences, or maybe I'll get back into the forums and help people with some of their kind of like problems, because the forums are great, man. Everyone's talking about Copilot and stuff from, Ignite this last week or so, but there's still people on the ground that are still struggling with the most basic of things from Power Apps because it's their first time in there. There's loads of different ways we can contribute. It doesn't always have to be the same stuff. If you do enjoy contributing to communities, but you don't want to do X, freshen it up and do Y. Like you've just got to enjoy this stuff first and foremost. I think if it becomes a chore, then take a step back, have a rest, and reevaluate. Right?
Yeah, completely. That's also partly why I've started doing this as well, because I wanted to continue to create on YouTube, but for me personally, it did start to feel like little Power Apps tutorials just felt like work a little bit. It wasn't as like fulfilling or enjoyable. But this has given me a super cool platform to just like connect and interact with people and get to know them. And
you got to find your niche.
Yeah.
Find your niche and own it. That's another piece of advice. Like if it's Power Apps, writing Power Effects, go and own it. If it's governance, go and own it. If it's doing a podcast, go and own it. Whatever it is you enjoy, be the best at it, man, or at least strive to be, and have fun along the way. And like you say, like if you're doing something that doesn't quite work, cool, don't force the issue. Reevaluate, take a step back. Hey, maybe I'll do this instead. And like sometimes you got to try and find, try a couple of things before you find the thing that you vibe with, right? But the important thing is you find that thing.
Completely. I think we might already be here, but I'd love to send us to the after hours happy hour segment of the show where we can, not talk about work, talk about our personalities a little bit more. I've been wanting to ask you, so you are a tattooed, Lego obsessed girl dad. I mean, like quite a combo out here. Like, what's going on? I mean, I see the setup behind you there in the glass cases. You are not the first Lego enthusiast on the show, but yeah, go ahead.
It's only a small amount of my collection. If I had a bigger office, then I would just have so much more. We are actually looking at moving house next year, and one of my caveats to moving is that I have a bigger office so I can get more Lego.
Yeah.
It's got to be done. But yeah, like I love my tattoos. I love Lego. I think like I still get really weird looks when I take my daughter to the doctor's surgery. Like I still like I don't think for my generation or ours, but I think the older generation still have this sort of stigma that if you're a baldy with tattoos and a beard, then you must be like a murderer or a burglar or a thug. It's like I couldn't be further from the truth. Like I love having a laugh. I like building Lego. I like nerding out, and I like having tickles with my daughter. Do you know what I mean? It could be further from the truth, but yeah, I just do things I enjoy doing. I'm lucky enough that I can get tattooed and I can buy Lego sets. So,
sure.
We all have vices to enjoy. I don't think mine are too unhealthy.
What is it you?
Expensive, I suppose, but
Sure,
you're not
yeah,
unhealthy, right?
that's true. What is it you enjoy so much about Lego? I always love asking people that question.
That's I alluded to earlier on, like having ADHD, and I've known that for my whole life. To be fair, like looking back, but it's nice to kind of get an assessment done in the last couple of years, so I can better learn and understand about neurodiversity and about me as a person. And one of the things that's traits is like my brain just fires at 1,000,000 miles an hour, 24 hours a day. Like I'll wake up in random points in the night with an answer to a coding problem, and I have to email myself, otherwise I'm going to lose it. I really struggle to switch my brain off. Lego is one of the few things I've found that switches my brain off, because it's sort of a very regimented process. I've got instructions. I need to find that piece. I find that piece. I put it on the build. I need to find that piece. I find that piece. I put it on the build. And it doesn't give me much capacity to think about anything else. I can just switch all those neurons and firing off and just focus on something very simplistic and very calming. And actually what I've done, like to net off my blogging, is after I've done this for an hour, I go downstairs, no TV, no sound, the wife's got to bed, the little one's gone to bed, I sit there in quiet and I just build Lego. And it's one of the few times of the day where I just feel totally at peace and really calm. And that's why I do it. Obviously, I can't do it all the time because Lego is quite expensive. So I've actually started doing like crosswords, weirdly enough. And again, it's just very simple and easy way to calm my brain down. So yeah, that's why I like Lego. But I love Lego as a kid. I best bury myself in Lego, building like Thundercat swords out of stuff. And do you remember the Thundercats? What amazing cartoon that was.
Yeah,
It's quality.
I am not familiar with it, unfortunately.
Oh
but,
my dude! Right, go on
I'm
YouTube
sure it's
after this
phenomenal
call.
in every way.
Go after this call. Go and Google Thundercats, one of the best cartoons ever. I used to love Lego as a kid, and then I had like it's weird when you like pass on experiences to like technology wise. I had a couple of younger cousins that were like 11 years younger than me. So when I kind of grown out of my Lego in my teens, they then had all my Lego and they were playing with it and building all kinds of cool stuff. And I thought, well, that come back round full circle in my 30s and 40s that actually I'm now building Lego again. It's just good fun. So yeah, happy days, right? I've still got a whole bunch of Lego like up around here off camera that you can't see. That's like more Harry Potter Lego sets, Star Wars, Avengers.
I believe you, man. That's super awesome. Craig, man, you've been super fun just to hang out with and get to meet. I wanted to ask you, if somebody was listening, positively impacted by this conversation and wanted to connect with you or get in touch with you, what would be the best way to reach you?
LinkedIn. You can find me on there. I'm followed all the cool cats over to Blue Sky now, so I think I'm on there somewhere as well. I'm not on X anymore, so don't try me on there. Or you can contact me through my blog, which is platformsofpower.net.
Perfect. I will have links to all of that down in the description down below so that everyone can access that.
Nice.
Thank you to you for sticking that in the video. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.